Good morning, boys and girls. We have been talking about readers having three different voices. Their reading voice, remember, is what the text says or what the words are. Your thinking voice is what the words mean. And then, of course, we have that distracting voice over there that we have to kind of stop and then get back to our reading and our thinking voice. Well, today we're going to focus on right down here where Mrs. Holman's pointing to. We're going to talk about what the words say and what the words mean today in Pete the Cat, Pete's Big Lunch. So, boys and girls, good readers sometimes can take notes about what they're reading, and that really helps us to understand maybe what the characters are thinking or feeling, and it helps us to really understand what we're reading. So sometimes when I'm reading, I like to take notes, okay? And you will use this skill from first grade all the way to when you're a senior. So this is really an important skill to learn about right now. So you could just get like an ordinary piece of paper. Right now, I just have a notebook I found. And what we're going to do is when I'm taking notes, sometimes I can just kind of divide the paper right in half. All right. And on one side, I can make a speech bubble. See, you know how Mrs. Holman is drawing. And then on the other side, oh, I wish I had a yellow marker, but we can do our thinking bubble. And that kind of means, what the words are meaning. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read Pete the Cat, and I'm going to show you how I would use my reading and then my thinking voice to take notes. All right, well, let's get started. I'm going to lay this right down here. And I'm going to move my camera down just a little bit so you can kind of see to what I'm doing. All right, might be upside down to you right now, but I'll show you the right way. All right, let's get started. Pete the Cat, Pete's Big Lunch. Here comes Pete. Lunch? It is lunchtime. Pete is ready to eat. And I know a lot of you at school, you'd always be ready for lunchtime. So I notice so if I'm using my thinking voice, I notice that he's ready to eat, so he's hungry. I notice that he also has a watch. So my reading voice says lunch. And my thinking voice here, I'm thinking it must be time to eat. So I'm just going to draw a picture of a watch. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect, just something you remember. So Pete is hungry, it's time for lunch, and we're thinking that his watch is telling him that it's time for lunch too. What should Pete eat? A sandwich would be nice. So the word that I read was sandwich. So I know that Pete wants maybe a sandwich. So that's my reading. Okay. Yes, Pete wants a sandwich. Pete opens the fridge. All right. So I notice in the fridge, if I'm kind of thinking about it, I see mayo, milk. Hope he doesn't put that on a sandwich. Bread, fish. Well, I know he's a cat, and I think cats like fish. He takes out a loaf of bread. He finds a yummy fish. He adds tomato and mayo. So I'm going to use my sandwich here, and he's building a sandwich, but does that look like a sandwich that you might have? So I'm just going to kind of draw a picture. He's got some bread. He's got some fish, some mayo, and a tomato. And remember, these don't have to be perfect picture. So let's see what happens next. Pete looks at his sandwich. It is too small. Something is missing. Pete knows what it needs. His sandwich needs an apple. Pete loves apples. So I'm thinking that Pete, first of all, if I'm looking at his sandwich, I'm not sure he knows how to make a sandwich, but he is building now on his sandwich, and now it's an apple. Oh my gosh. So, would you put an apple on your sandwich? His sandwich needs crackers. Crackers are crunchy. Pete loves crunchy crackers. Pete looks at his sandwich again. It is still too small. Oh my gosh, now he's dumping, and I'm just going to kind of do these under here. I know those mean crackers. So he keeps building on his sandwich because his sandwich was too small. Pete is very hungry. Pete adds a pickle. Pete adds cheese. Pete adds an egg, 2 hot dogs, a banana, and a can of beans. Wow. So I'll just kind of build some of these up here. He's got his pickle. He's got his cheese, an egg, 2 hot dogs. Does this sound like a good sandwich to you? A banana, and a can of beans. And I'll know those are beans. I wonder what's going to happen here. Something is missing. Pete adds ice cream. He takes 3 huge scoops. Oh my gosh. He's got his cone with 1, 2, 3 ice cream scoops. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? This sandwich, I'm not sure how he's going to eat it. Pete's sandwich is too big for Pete to eat. Pete wonders what to do. Pete thinks and thinks. So now the sandwich is too big. So now he's thinking what to do. And I can just do another thought bubble. I've got it, Pete says. Pete calls all of his friends. He asks them to come over. So if I'm reading those words, he calls, and I don't have to write all the words down. He calls, oops, I forgot the S. Calls friends. Everyone goes to Pete's house. They are all very hungry. Pete shows them his big lunch. Are you hungry? Asks Pete. Pete's sandwich is big enough for everyone. Dig in, says Pete. Pete's sandwich is good. Pete's sandwich is very good. Pete's sandwich is all gone. Pete's friends are full. They liked Pete's big lunch. Thanks for lunch. Pete's friends say, thanks for sharing. You're welcome, Pete says. Sharing is cool. So if I'm looking back down at my notes, he calls friends and he shares his sandwich. All right, so let's go ahead and I'm going to hold that up real quick. All right, hopefully you can see it. So when I'm taking notes, I'm writing down some of the words that are from the story or from the text. You can even do this with nonfiction. And then I'm jotting down a picture, or you can use a word about what the words are meaning. And that really helps you to understand what you read. So today, boys and girls, after this lesson, I want you to get a piece of paper and a book, and I want you to draw a chart like this to think about what you're reading. And again, they can be words or pictures, something that helps you remember the story. All right, happy reading.